20,742. That's every page in One Piece. Yes, every single one. And with 1,269 double-page spreads, that means 12% of the manga is comprised of double-pagers, with about 1.1 spreads a chapter. Not quite as rare as I thought, but what are some of the rarest spreads in the story? To answer that, we have to categorize them first, as technically each page is one of a kind. So the first question to come to my mind is, what page is least likely to have a spread? While I could spend hours talking about this question alone, let's try to simplify it, as double-pagers do in fact take up 2 pages. Who would have guessed? So let's give each page the number of spreads it started, the total amount of spreads in that page, as well as the percentage of pre- and post-timeskip spreads. And there you have it, all on screen. Looking at this makes the countless hours of work to get to this point feel worth it. First off, I gotta point out the amount of spreads that start with each page follow a strange pattern. High, then low, from page 1 onward, never breaking. Only 17% of spreads start on even numbered pages. That's crazy. If you asked me before, I just guess it was 50-50. But while that's interesting, let's get back to the main topic. Page 4 and 8 are the least likely to start a spread, each only having 16 apiece. That's close to 1%. Still not quite hitting the peaks of rarity I was looking for. But keen-eyed viewers might have noticed the question marks on page 18, with the 17th page starting 142 spreads. If I were to ask you what the drop-off would be, what would you answer? From 142 to 10, maybe even 5? Well, there's only one. Only one double-page spread started on page 18, and the honor of this one-of-a-kind page obviously goes to Afro Luffy, the greatest character in One Piece, striking a well-deserved victory pose. Yet thanks to page 17, the total amount of spreads skyrocket to 143, so it still doesn't hit the peak I was looking for. But are there any spreads after? Well, if you've read the manga, the answer should be obvious since the first chapter exists, with its spread coming in at page 48 and 49, though that doesn't really count, am I right? So let's go back. Is there a single spread between page 18 and 48? Well, the answer to that is yes, but there's only one. Zoro defeating Mr. 1, coming in at page 19 and 20. The only time in 28 years that's happened, page 20 in specific being one of a kind. The only page in 1,145 chapters and 20,692 pages to only have a single spread. Now that's the type of rarity I was looking for. Okay, I don't know what happened, but the page section hijacked the video. This was supposed to be about the content of the spreads, not their location. But alas, the world works in mysterious ways. Getting to what was going to be the main topic. A manga page consists of 2 things: images and text, the latter being what I wanted to talk about. So let's start with what I thought was a relatively rare occurrence: stylized text without borders. You might be laughing at me, but yes, I did think it was rare. To be fair though, I could only find a single pre-timeskip spread with borderless text, so I really didn't think it would balloon to over 50. That's still less than 5%, technically a bit rare. But my intuition wasn't totally off this time, as over 90% of them are for characters alone. Surprisingly, Blackbeard has gotten 4 of these, as well as getting the first in the story. Mr. Offscreen seems like he doesn't want us to forget him. However, while I don't consider Luffy's transformations the same as the rest, they're technically still character info, so I'll categorize them as such. The most different use of text goes to the Germa spread. Now that's unique. Still, the reason I started to look for these in the first place was because of this spread. It made me think of a simple question: how many locations have gotten introduced with borderless text? And the answer to that is 1. After looking through every spread thousands of times, I could only find a single instance in the entire story. But there's still 2 more unique spreads: the Mother Flame's introduction and the start of the Reverie. So my gut wasn't wrong. It was pretty damn rare. Though let me ask you, what do you think of this spread, other than the fact that it's beautiful? Because as Luffy says, that's a pretty castle. If you thought this spread was unique in some way, you'd be right, as it has 0 onomatopoeia, the sound effects of manga. You never really think about them yet, they're everywhere, and only 15 spreads in all of One Piece don't have any. Now that's pretty rare, but are there any spreads without words at all? Well, there are 4 spreads with no dialogue and readable text. This one in specific only having a small box for the time, so close, yet still not quite right. 16 spreads have no words at all, though most of them still have text bubbles, don't know why, and the onomatopoeia are still front and center. But is there a single spread with no text whatsoever? The answer to that is yes. Here it is. The spread that made me think about all this in the first place. 100% clean, 0 text, half of what makes a manga gone. Simply beautiful. Though there is another page just like it in Dressrosa of all places. Cabbage just had to make it beautiful, so that makes it 2. Not quite one of a kind, but close. However, they still have panels, which means there's not a single textless full-pager. The closest to it in the entire story is here. The only full-page spread with no text bubble or box to speak of. The only one of its kind, yet is still has onomatopoeia. So not quite perfect. I wonder if it's ever going to happen though, a fully textless full-page spread. Maybe when the One Piece is found, yet I'm confident there's going to be a big Dawn there too. Wow, this video turned out a lot different than expected, and this is the latest I've ever been when it comes to writing. Only a few hours before I got to post the video, and yet I'm still not finished with the script. I'm fucked.